Let's move on to some losers, some fantasy losers. Now, not all of these guys are drops, obviously, and this first name that we're going to speak about is clearly not a drop. But I do think that he is a loser in terms of his value, and it's your boy Nikola Vucevic. I think his fantasy is going to take a bit of a hit here now in Chicago. What are your thoughts on Vucevic?
It definitely will. I was a little bit saddened to see it happen, but to some degree, that there was some kind of, I guess, lockdown potential, like lockout,
Yeah,
if shutdown is the word I'm looking for,
yeah,
with
yeah,
that team going full tank mode. So at least I
yeah,
know he's on a competitive team that are going for it. His points are definitely going to go down. Right now, he's putting up 24 and a half points a game, which is pretty fucking good. The
yeah.
next
That's
highest he
killer.
had was 20.8. So it's a pretty, it's quite clearly the best season he's had. And from a fantasy point of view, the field goals also there. He's been hitting threes, which he'll still do. I can see the rebounds being maintained as well, but the assists will definitely go down
Yeah,
as well. So
yeah,
points and assists will be hit across the board. His efficiency might go up a little bit, but he's been pretty efficient regardless.
yeah.
I guess you might see it go back up to 50%. So a plus there, but two pretty big negatives on the points and assists.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. He's definitely. I think he's going to lose. Potentially a little bit in threes, points, assists. He might even lose a bit of rebounding. There was really no one else in Orlando to gobble up any rebounds, and you've got some decent rebounds over in Chicago and Larry Markkanen. Even Thomas Sadaransky as a point guard is going to take a few rebounds off you. Not a huge hit, but maybe sort of one or two there. But just the fact that when you're the 11th ranked player on the season, those little hits here and there are enough to sort of send your value down a fair bit. It's very competitive at the top here. So he's still going to be an excellent player, and I still think he's going to return value on where you drafted him. But just he's not going to be this slam dunk, league winning pick that you had for the majority of the season. You probably drafted him in the third round or so, and he's returned first round value. He's probably more of that second to third rounder now, which is where you drafted him. So I would just sort of, be content with that. Be ready to lose a few points and assists there from him, and see how it all goes. It might also take a bit of time for him to get used to it. So these next few weeks might be a bit bumpy, but once they sort of get into the rhythm of things, yeah, he'll sort of still be a decent player for you. Will still be a very good player, I should say, for you. So I don't think he's going to be awful by any stretch.
He's
A
definitely
couple
still the
of
clear number two
yeah.
option, right? Like, surely.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
So
I think he's above Larry Markkanen, like I said. But there's just more talent on this roster. Basically, there's more shots to go around, and just when that's the case, he goes from being a clear number one option to being a second option with also talent behind him as well. So, yeah, what do you think he's going to average points wise?
it's probably going to go down to his 20 points a game. So right now he's at
Yeah,
that
okay.
pretty much 25, but he'll take a hit 5 points off. But his field goal will be boosted up to above 50%.
Yeah, I could honestly see him averaging under 20. Maybe that like 18 a night. Just because, there are a lot of mouths to feed in Chicago. And they put up points, Kobe White is not the best player in the world, but he'll take shots. Zach LaVine loves to shoot it. Larry Markkanen's still there. You've got the young Patrick Williams, Thad Young's, been playing heavy minutes. There's a few mouths to feed there. So I wouldn't be surprised if it dips under 20 points a game. All right, let's move on to a couple of other ex-Orlando players. Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier. I'm just going to go out and say that Aaron Gordon is a drop. He wasn't doing much beforehand anyway. He's a terrible fantasy player. Even when he's got a lot of minutes and opportunity, he's moving to a good Nuggets team. And I'm not a big Aaron Gordon fan, especially with fantasy. And I just don't think that he's going to get the stats he needs to be valuable in fantasy. So I think if there's someone that we mentioned in the winners available, I think you can drop Aaron Gordon to do so. Evan Fournier, I would just wait and see a little bit. But he may trend towards a drop as well, just being limited in terms of other stats like steals, blocks, rebounds, and things like that. He was getting a lot of assists because they had no point guards in Orlando. He won't get that in Boston. What are your thoughts on these two ex-Magic players?
I think Aaron Gordon, I'd say he's a hesitant drop. I wouldn't drop him straight away. I'd be intrigued to see how they play it because
Yeah.
Paul Millsap is still there and they still got Will Barton. So if they're playing a bit of the 3 and the 4, if he plays a lot of minutes at the 4, then his defensive stats will go up. So if you can get back in the 2017-18 season, he pretty much put up a steal and a block a game. If you can do that again, that's okay. His field goal will be pretty good.
I don't know.
So I'd say hesitant drop. Give him a couple weeks.
All right.
Fournier, his points will definitely go down. His assists will definitely go down. I think right now would probably only just give you points on every second a night. So it's not going to be super reliable either. So that will definitely be a hit for him fantasy wise because he hasn't really given you anything else. He's pretty much a points and threes guy, and because his usage will go down so much. And also his assists because they didn't have a point guard out there in Orlando with injuries. So that's going to be a bit of a hit as well. Yeah,
I can definitely see him dipping down, below sort of 15 points a game. His three is going to be probably closer to 2 a game. Assists are probably going to dip below 3. He doesn't give any blocks, doesn't give many rebounds at all. There's just not a lot else there to sort of keep his value high. So sure, keep him around if you need the points and threes, but if you want to make a move, I would rather Gary Trent Jr. than Evan Fournier at this point, I think, moving forward. So I would make that swap if you're after those stats because I think Gary Trent's going to give you more than Fournier will moving forward. Would you agree with that, Tay?
I'd agree with that. I think he's more reliable at this point.
Let's get into some bit more straightforward ones. Daniel Theis, drop him. He's not going to be a starting center anymore. He's not someone who provides too much in fantasy anyway. He's going to be behind Vucevic in Chicago, so I think he's a clear drop there. Anything to add there, Cal?
I think he's a clear drop. He'll average like 15 to 20 minutes a game now, so get rid of him.
Yeah. Delon Wright, who was an earlier trade in the week, I think he's a bit of a clear drop now as well. Was only really getting minutes there because of the lack of point guard situation in Detroit and on a shit team who was getting some usage. Now he's behind De'Aaron Fox. Halliburton's there as well, who's going to be getting a lot of assists and stuff like that. At best, he's a steals streamer, but at Sacramento, I don't think he's going to get the opportunity with, the only place that they actually have talent in Sacramento is at the guard. So I just don't think there's opportunity there for him. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. He'll slot into Corey Joseph's role, which is who he's replacing. And Corey Joseph was not an asset fantasy-wise because Halliburton is the man. I love Halliburton. De'Aaron Fox is an absolute beast as well. So there's no real point for Delon Wright to have a lot of minutes. Yeah.
Let's talk a couple of Heat players. I want to get your take on Duncan Robinson and Tyler Herro. Obviously, with the addition of Oladipo, what are your thoughts on their value moving forward? You're obviously a Herro owner as well.
I am. I think it's going to affect Herro the worst, sadly, because I think Duncan's still going to get his minutes, and he's still just going to, shoot 9 threes a game and hit 4 of them. So his role is kind of cemented with the team because he creates so much space for the other players. So fantasy-wise, I don't see a huge hit there. Tyler Herro, though, they've been giving him the rock a lot this season to run a bit of point guard, especially in the backup units. He's they're trying to let him create his own shot, but I think Oladipo is going to slot a lot better in that role from Miami's point of view. But from a fantasy point of view, Herro's usage will drop pretty badly with this trade of Oladipo.
I think Herro's a drop. I think he's probably not an immediate drop, but he's on that Evan Fournier sort of scale where he was already he's the 149th ranked player of the season, and that's on the back of no steals, no blocks. And just really poor field goal percentage, 41% field goal percentage. So, and his biggest value has been his points and threes, surprisingly rebounds randomly. But I think that those are all going to drop. I think his minutes might drop as well, with Oladipo just creating a bit more of a crowded backcourt there. And they've also had injuries throughout the season as well. So, I think if there's something on the wire that you can quickly grab, I wouldn't hesitate to sort of drop Tyler Herro to do so. I don't think he's someone you have to keep on your roster. Are you thinking there? What are your thoughts on dropping Tyler Herro?
I'll hit you with a random question. Who do you think's averaging better 3-point field goal? Tyler Herro or Russell Westbrook?
I hope it's Tyler Herro. If you tell me Russell Westbrook is averaging a better 3-point percentage, I'll be very surprised.
It's Tyler Herro, but it's comparable. And
Oh,
that's how
shit,
bad
yeah.
he's been shooting. He's shooting
Wow.
32.3%, and Russ is shooting it at 30%. So it's only 2% difference.
That's actually crazy. I did not think that it was that close.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. They've been giving him
Yeah.
the ball. He's been trying to create his own shot. It just hasn't been working this season. It's starting to
Yeah.
look like that big 30-point. Was it Game 5 against the Celtics? Was a bit of
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
anomaly.
36 or something. Yeah.
Sadly, so
Yeah.
he's still young.
I'm not.
So
He
I
is
can't
still
write him
young.
off.
No, you can't write him off. But for this season, I think that
Fantasy,
they're
I'm gonna
moving
get rid of him.
Yeah.
He'll be off
Yeah.
my team in the next week.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's a fair enough. I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't be too stressed that, oh my God, I'm going to miss out on Tyler Herro. Yeah, I don't think that the Heat really want him to be one of their main shooters. They want the ball in Jimmy Butler's hands. They want it in Oladipo's hands, Bam's hands. And then you've got players like Kendrick Nunn, Dragic, Duncan Robinson. If LaMarcus Aldridge comes to this team, there's just another shooter. And that's Herro's game. It's points and threes and field goal attempts. So that's all going to hurt his value. Let's touch on a couple of Chicago Bulls here. Lauri Markkanen and Thaddeus Young. I'm labeling them as losers with the addition of Nikola Vucevic, I should say. If only they could land Jokic. But I think that they are losers. Now, Thaddeus Young has been starting for Wendell Carter the last few weeks. I think, obviously, he moves back to the bench. He is someone that I own. So I am watching him. He is someone that has just been very efficient this year and able to produce in limited minutes with steals, assists, and rebounds with the trickle of blocks in there as well. So the good thing about Young is that his value is not there in points and usage, but just the hit to minutes that I'm expecting is probably the biggest thing for him. And Lauri Markkanen, it is the opposite. It is the usage and shot attempts, which I think is going to hit him. We've already labelled him as a sell high candidate in the past, so I think you could see his value decline fairly substantially moving forward, just because his value is so tied up in points and threes. What are your thoughts on those Bulls there?
Yeah, they can only go with, I think, just one of Thaddy or Lauri for the closing lineup. And I think you can really play him because Vucevic has to be in the closing lineup now.
Yeah.
And so just for that reason, one of them's going to be affected. They probably both will. Thad Young's been like a sixth-man candidate because he's been doing it all. 12, 6, 4 assists, which is a lot of assists for a guy off the bench. 1.4 steals and 0.6 blocks. Like he's a net positive kind of everywhere except for your 3-pointers where he's just not really attempting any of them. But field goal's great too. For some reason I can still kind of see them backing Thad over Lauri in the closing minutes. So maybe
I can see that too. Yeah,
just from a defensive point of view because that is so useful on that end, especially with Vucevic, who's not really a rim protector at all. I can see that happening, which I think Lauri will be affected more so. Would be my prediction.
I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out because Markkanen has been trending down since we had that Sell High podcast, so hopefully you did manage to do that. But I'd be very interested to see where this goes. I think that they can still run a 3-man rotation, although they did bring in Theis, who deserves to play some minutes. So they do have 4 players there, that deserve minutes. So Thaddeus Young was getting minutes at both positions. I just think there's those minutes that's going to drop his value, and obviously Markkanen, I think with the usage is going to drop. So I would think that they're both losers there, but both not dropping either of them. But just wait to see how it all pans out. If you can manage to sell high, I would definitely do so. Probably difficult to do now, but I would just watch them for now and try to make some additions in accordance to that. Last one we'll touch on. We spoke a little bit earlier in the podcast, but we'll talk about Norman Powell here. Another one of your players. You've been hit hard on this trade deadline here, Cal. Moving over to Portland. Obviously, I think he's been, like you mentioned before, 25 points a game in the last month. He's not going to be doing that over in Portland, and that's a big part of his value. So, what do you expect from Norman Powell moving forward?
Yeah, it's rough. He's 28th ranked player in the past month, because of that elite field goal being at about 55%, 25 points, close to 4 threes a game as well. So the efficiency, you'd like to say that that's going to be maintained, but the points are definitely going to drop, which is going to be a big hit because that's one of the main positives. That's why it's been boosted to the 28th rank. So yeah, it's definitely
and the problem with that as well. Yes, the field goal percentage will still be there, but because there's going to be less attempts, the value of that field goal percentage will be reduced as well. So it's a double-edged sword there, and that can severely hurt someone's ranking. I still think he's not in that drop range like we talked about Tyler Herro and things like that. You keep hold of him, and he's still going to be a serviceable player. He's going to give you the points and threes, and I would still have him over someone like. Him and Gary Trent, you've got the added benefit of the field goal percentage with Norman Powell. So I think, you were talking before about that swap you made. I still think it's going to serve your favor there, Cal, and I would rather Norman Powell over Gary Trent still. But, I do think just because he 3 rebounds, less than 2 assists, no blocks at all, there's just not much else to his value. He's got good free throw percentage, low turnovers, so he's not hurting you in any of those categories. But yeah, just the points and threes are going to drop as a result. That'll do it there. We've spoken a lot about some fantasy winners and losers. We spoke, if you're following us on Twitter at BallBoysNBA, I was sending out tweets at 5 o'clock in the morning this morning, like a madman, trying to keep up with all the details. So anyone who was following us on Twitter got that advice first before the video hits the next day. So make sure you're following us on Twitter. That's at BallBoysNBA to get that advice first in, first dressed. And hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Chuck a like on the video and let your mates know about it. Thanks for joining me, Cal, and we'll see you guys next time.
Let's go. Hashtag Heat Culture.
Heat Culture.